You're listening to the Armchair GM Sports Network.
You're listening to Straight to the Extra Point, your nugget source for all news, draft coverage, free agency, weekly game analysis, game day betting picks, and fantasy football updates regarding the National Football League. Here's your hosts, Brandon Caputo and Miklos McMaster.
Hello once again, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another installment of Straight to the Extra Point, right here on the Armchair GM Sports Network, your September 29th, 2020 edition, your source of North American sports coverage by sports fans, for sports fans, delivered to you right here in the good old Niagara region. You can find us on social media for updates, giveaways, and sponsorship promo codes each month by following the podcast on Twitter at Armchair GM Pod, on Facebook by searching Armchair GM's Network, and on Instagram by searching the Armchair GM Sports Network. Listen to us on our main platform, which is Spreaker.com, and the free Spreaker app by searching the Armchair GMs. As well, check us out on Spotify, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, iHeartRadio, CastBox, and Deezer by searching the Armchair GM Sports Network. And lastly, check out our beautiful user-friendly website, armchairgmsports.com, for all things regarding our network, including articles, podcast episodes, sponsors, and contributors. Everything's on there for you guys. Wherever's most convenient if you're listening to us. We're on all those different platforms for you. Please give us a like and subscribe. Smash that like button. Give us some love on whatever platform you're listening to us right now. As always, I'm one of your hosts of Straight to the Extra Point, Cappy. You can follow me on Twitter, @Capoots13 with a Canadian Z. And I'm always very pleased to be joined on the NFL portion of the network by my co-host and good friend, Miklos McMaster, former OUA athlete for the Waterloo Warriors. You can follow him on Twitter, @Miklos_McMaster. Miklos, welcome back. We're here for the Week 3 recap and looking ahead to Week 4 here.
Yeah, very excited, Coach. So I got to say, through these first 3 weeks, not doing much for my credibility as a football analyst here. My picks have been not so hot.
Well, they're Jason Garrett level, so at least you're able to keep a job for 10 years as a head coach. So, I mean, 8-8 is all you need to get, apparently.
Hey, if I could be slightly under 500, I could pull off a Jeff Fisher and still keep a job for 10 years.
Exactly. So we're here to talk about the Shield. Like Miklos said, it's always about the Shield, baby. So here to talk about the NFL today on this glorious Tuesday afternoon. Again, a little bit early that we were recording this, but we'll make do with what the spreads we got. And we actually got some breaking news here, so I'm going to play the intro breaking news sound for this. Miklos, we have some news regarding the Tennessee Titans, which could affect not only the NFL schedule this week, but moving forward for the rest of the season.
Yeah, per Adam Schefter and Ian Rappaport, both of them reporting that the Tennessee Titans has 3 players and 2 staff members, I believe it was, test positive for COVID-19. Now, a positive test means that they do have to get a second test to confirm the positive, that it's not a false positive. And then following the protocol from there. But as of now, they are barred from their facility, and everyone in their organization has to quarantine. The Steelers, who are the Tennessee Titans' opponents this week, have been informed that they're still prepping for the Tennessee Titans. But it does look like that there's a potential for the schedule to get thrown for a loop here. I mean, if this game has to get postponed, and also a second game, because Minnesota played Tennessee, they do not yet have any positive tests per any agency or a person reporting, but if they do have a positive test, that could throw their game against the Houston Texans for a loop, and that would be 4 teams that the NFL would have to reschedule, which should be interesting moving forward.
Now, I know I can talk to you about this because you're a host on this show, but as well you're an aspiring medical professional. So I take your opinion seriously when it comes to anything in the medical field. So, Miklos, as an aspiring medical professional here, does this alarm you, the fact that there is already positive cases, and do you see that there's any reason that this would not spread if they would continue on with these games?
Well, I think I said it earlier that it wasn't a matter of if, but when. I think just because all the teams, even though they're bubbled in their own facility, each team has about, if you're including staff and everything, that's over 100 people involved. and it takes a lot. You're moving people through airports. There's public spaces that you're moving people through. It's a lot of families interacting. I mean, those people have to go to the grocery store and gas stations and things like that are required, even if they are in a bubble. So I think it was just a matter of if, or not a matter of if, but when positive tests happened. And now it's just going to see what happened with the NFL, because they haven't been in a bubble like the NHL or the NBA was. So I think this was very, very likely to happen, and now it's just a matter of seeing how they're going to deal with it moving forward. And
we saw it happen in Major League Baseball, but the difference with that was that Major League Baseball, they can play multiple games in a day. They've been able to do double headers, playing games every day basically. In the NFL, you can't play a game, or you can't do double headers in football, or playing a game every other day. You, as a former football player yourself in university, I don't think you would have been able to have a brain if you guys would play football every day or have a doubleheader game.
Well, it's a combination of things. It's body recovery from the amount of stress that you put on yourself during game day, and also preparation. I mean, I'm sure other sports also put a lot of preparation in film, but they have a lot quicker turnaround to these games, where football, you spend a whole week preparing for a team. And that's a big problem whenever it comes to a short week. Not only the recovery aspect, but also getting your reps in and looking at the film, breaking down what the other team can do, and establishing that chess match that happens every Sunday. So I do think it's definitely going to put a stress on how players recover. I mean, especially with the injuries that we've seen so far, and how having games on short weeks is going to be a unique scenario for sure.
And the thing that we talked about before we went on the air today was that we were discussing, when could these games possibly be rescheduled? And you had brought up a point that the NFLPA would not allow games to be played probably on, a Tuesday or Wednesday. So we'd most likely, if it happened, we would get a couple of Thursday night games, or a team would be basically on a short week playing on a Thursday and then playing their scheduled Sunday game. Do you think that there's any possibility that could take place?
I think that quick turnaround of like 48 hours between a game, I know there's rules in there about player safety and stuff, and that's why I remember the Thursday games, whenever they first came out, were a big issue of contention amongst the players about having a short week and everything, especially if you're playing on a Sunday and then playing on a Thursday, and that's the reason no Monday night team has a Thursday night game. So I do think it's going to be something that they're going to have to work out. I don't know if it's already been laid out whenever they planned ahead for the season, but yeah, especially with bye weeks not lining up between these teams, it's definitely going to be something that could be a problem if more teams test positive.
Absolutely. So that's just a little bit of breaking news that we got just before we started recording today. So definitely a topic of interest. There's definitely going to be a lot of moving parts with that, and we'll have to see if this is a snowball effect to more teams and how they're going to fit this into the schedule, because this is going to be very interesting if we end up getting a few extra weeks extended onto the football season, how that affects everything, and especially fantasy football too for a lot of people. So it's going to affect a lot of areas and a lot of people, and we'll have to see if the Titans are able to play this week, and if they are, we're going to talk about the game. But regardless of that, definitely something to monitor here with the Titans, and as well the Steelers and the Vikings who played the Titans this last week. So with that being said, guys, we're going to take a quick commercial break on the show today, and we're going to come back and we're going to discuss the games from week 3 and just kind of quickly recap those and go over how we did in our picks for last week. So we'll be right back here on Straight to the Extra Point, and right here on the Armchair GM Sports Network. Carmine's Pizzeria Italiano, serving traditional-style Italian pizzas made with the freshest, top-quality ingredients. Loaded subs and their famous chicken wings. Winners of the Reader's Choice Diamond Award, 4 years running from Niagara this week for Best Pizza and Wings in Niagara Falls. Home of the best tray and wing combo in town for the price and quality. Open daily from 3 p.m. to 9 p.m., located on the corner of Drummond Road and Dunn Street. Available for call-ahead pickup or delivery at 905-374-4400. Make sure to like them on Facebook and view their website for their menu at carmine'spizzeria.ca. Carmine's Pizzeria Italiano. Way too good. As we all adjust to this new world that we're living in today, masks are now mandatory, and Niagara's own Custom PPE is Canada's leading face mask provider. Visit them online at customppe.ca and choose between several mask options with different colors and sizes. Add your organization, company, or team logo so you make your face masks unique. Available to purchase online 24/7 at customppe.ca and shipped within 1 week. They have the best prices and quickest turnaround in Canada, and no order is too big or too small. Also offering custom floor stickers as well as face and counter shields for your business or workplace. Visit customppe.ca and use the code ARMCHAIR at checkout for 20% off your custom or blank face mask today. Custom PPE, Canada's leading face mask provider. Attention job seekers, if you are currently looking for work in the Niagara region, you owe it to yourself to check out the services provided by the Niagara Employment Help Center, located at 6100 Throatstone Road, Niagara Falls, directly across from the Camisos Plaza. Their free services include resume and cover letter writing, community resource and referral information, local labor market information, job search strategies, assistance with clarifying employment training and career goals, employment counseling and job search support, second career information and registration assistance, and all their services are currently provided by appointment only. So give them a call at 905-358-0021 or visit their website at ehc.on.ca, the Niagara Employment Help Center. This Employment Ontario program is funded by the Government of Ontario.
You're listening to the Armchair GM Sports Network, the Niagara region's best local source for North American sports podcasting coverage. By sports fans, for sports fans.
Alright guys, welcome back to the second segment of today's Straight to the Extra Point. Cappy Miklos back with you here. And Miklos, let's waste no time here. This segment today is brought to you by Carmine's Pizzeria Italiano, home of the best pizza and wing combos in Niagara Falls, Ontario. Call today 905-374-4400 and carmine'spizzeria.ca. This month's promo code is Armchair Bacon for 10% off your entire order when you call for call-ahead pickup or delivery. Carmine's Pizzeria Italiano, way too good. So Miklos, we'll start off with the Week 3 recap here, and with our game day picks. Again, as we discussed in the first segment, you are pulling the Jason Garrett this year. You're just, treading water here with the 500 records. You went 8-7-1 because the Rams game was a push. So you went 8-7-1. It's actually an over 500 record if you consider the push. And then you went 8-8 for the over-unders.
Yeah, I just got to say, I'm consistent right now. That's what I'm doing. I'm doing consistent. We'll see if we can improve it in the weeks to come.
I need to get like a Jason Garrett clapping sound effect so I can keep giving it to you every week. So we'll have to see how that goes.
Hopefully it doesn't happen that often that the sound effect becomes warranted.
Yes, hopefully not. And on the other side of the coin with myself, I went 11-4-1 with the spreads and 10-6 with the over-unders. So I had a really good week. Needed that after what my Falcons have done to me the last 2 weeks. Just put me in a very bad mental state. But as far as my picks go, 11-4-1 for the spreads, 10-6 for the over-unders. Miklos 8-7-1 and 8-8. So again, there was that one push with the Rams game against the Bills. We'll get into that. A little bit of a garbage finish with that game. But let's start off with the Thursday night game, Miklos. I know I was giving this game a lot of hell before it started. I know you were a little bit more optimistic about the Dolphins and Jags, the Battle of Florida, the battle of the COVID capital of the world right now in Florida. But what did you think of the Dolphins and Jags game? I know your dad's a big Miami Dolphins fan, so what did you think of this game?
Yeah, I always thought it was going to be pretty entertaining, even though both teams aren't considered in the top tier. But overall, I think Miami's defense was the story of the game. They came out inspired and swarming. And I mean, as with the Saints, I think teams are noticing missing your top wide receiver is a problem. And no DJ Chark really affected Jacksonville. But kudos to Miami's defense that were all over the field. And hey, Miami's not as bad as people think they are. I mean, if they had a couple things go right their way, they could have beat the Bills too. So not bad in Dolphin country.
I guess not. And I mean, they did enough to beat the Jags, I guess. So good on them. But I don't know. I couldn't get into This game, I know I was giving it a lot of heck before it started, but it ended up not being the worst game I've ever seen, because that game definitely belonged to something else this week that I'll definitely be ranting about, because there was something that was way worse than that Dolphins and Jags game turned out to be. But the Dolphins get on track here. I was right about the Dolphins. I picked the Dolphins. You picked the Jags. So for that sake, I'll take the Dolphins win in that regard. Moving on here to the 1 o'clock games on Sunday. We'll start off. Oh my God, do we have? You can go ahead and talk about this game. Of course, it's always the game that we got to talk about first, and it's the game that I do not want to talk about. All I'm going to say is that the Atlanta Falcons they've just ripped our hearts out way too many times. I don't even want to watch our one primetime game against the Green Bay Packers coming up this week. The last 2 weeks have been they've broken records in the worst possible way. They're the first team to have a 15-point advantage in the fourth quarter and blow both leads in back-to-back weeks, let alone one time. And they're also the first team in NFL history, after going 443-0 against the Cowboys last week, to have 3+ turnovers and score 30 points and lose the game. So that's all I'm going to say about the Atlanta Falcons. I don't want to talk about this game. The Bears, good on them. The only thing I'll say is Nick Foles. I told you guys he's still got something left in the tank. I was on him with the Jags last year, and he comes in here for Mitch Trubisky and leads a comeback for the Bears. So good on them. But as far as the Atlanta Falcons go, Dan Quinn, they got to be the dumbest team in the National Football League as far as knowing how to manage a clock and run the ball when you're up by multiple touchdowns with 5 minutes left in the game. Miklos, take it away, because I'm just going to get way too fired up about it, and it's going to turn into an hour rant.
Yeah, the Bears also making some history. I think they're the first team to be 3-0 and having 2 of those games be comebacks from a 16-point or more deficit, which is pretty crazy. I mean, the Bears, I gave them a lot of shit in the offseason about the moves that they made and how they were looking coming into the season, but they found a way to win. It is not easy to be 3-0 in this league. And as for your Atlanta Falcons, I mean, things to be positive about. The offense has been amazing. They've been moving the ball and scoring points, and Calvin Ridley has been scary good in the first 3 weeks. But, I mean, you got to come up with stops. If you score 30 more points, that's got to be a win. And you can say all you want about managing the clock and running the ball and everything. You can't allow that many points as a defense. That's ridiculous. You can't have your offense score 30 points and it costs you the game. And that the defense has got to find a way to figure it out to close these games out. And especially late in the fourth quarter, like you can't be allowing that many touchdowns to happen as a defense. So I think especially because Dan Quinn's supposed to be defensive minded, I think he's definitely on the hot seat now. And starting off the season 0-3 and having your defense, of all things, look that brutal, I think either the defensive coordinator is going to get fired if this continues, or they might just clean house of the coaching staff altogether.
It's just, you can't be giving up so many chunk plays on defense like that. Like, I understand the way that he wants to play defense, but it's just, it clearly has not worked, and people think he should have been fired last year after the horrible start, but they pulled it back together, finished 6-2, but what did that get us? A 7-9 record? We're like heading for that now. We should be 2-1. We're 0-3 now, just becoming the butt end of every joke possible. Just, they continue to find new ways to lose, and it's unacceptable. I'm not going to stand for it anymore. So, I mean, as somebody who, devotes their life to this team, I can't physically do it anymore. They've sucked the life out of football for me already through 3 weeks, and I just don't know if I'm going to be able to find it back. For the sake of the show, I'm going to continue to watch football, but as far as, being invested in my team, I don't know what to say other than, they better find a way after they get demolished by the Packers on Monday night, because I don't expect them to have a double-digit lead in that game for them to blow. They better win the next 5 straight games to even have a chance, or this Dan Quinn coaching staff is going to be all gone. So that's all I'm going to say about it. We've spent way too much time on talking about these guys and what they deserve. So the Bears pull out a 30-26 victory. And again, I'm just sitting here and being the butt end of everybody's jokes. We'll have to wait and see how long that continues for. But let's move on to another game here. And the Bills and Rams, obviously the push game that we talked about, getting the one push on our records this week. So the Bills come up with a 35-32 victory. Speaking of the Atlanta Falcons, these guys almost pulled an Atlanta Falcons. They were up by 28 to 3. and the Rams, good on them, they fought all the way back, took the lead, and then with just some lucky plays in the end, Josh Allen and this Bills offense finds a way to get it done, and a very questionable, to say the least, pass interference call on the Rams, giving the ball to the Bills on the 1-yard line for basically the ceiling touchdown to win that game.
Yeah, I think Bills Mafia 3-0. I mean, they're letting it rip out, and let me tell you, Josh Allen looks, at least in the first half of that game and in the previous games, has looked like the bona fide franchise quarterback the Bills have been searching for it seems like forever, since Drew Bledsoe left. But he has been incredible. But amazingly, it's their defense that has the question marks. I mean, they let Miami come back and take the lead in their game last week. And then this week, the Rams, sparked by some plays on their defense, came back and took the lead. And it took a brutal pass interference call. I could not believe it when I was watching it that was called for them to win that game. They're lucky to be 3-0, but they are 3-0. And I think they need to start asking some questions about their defense. They can't be allowing that many points to be scored, and they're lucky that they came away with a win in their first big test of the year against the Rams. What
do you think is going to be a bigger negative? The fact that the Rams, were getting blown out. Do you think that that's going to be a bigger area of concern, or the fact that the Bills blew that big of a lead? Which one do you think is the bigger area of concern?
I think the Bills blowing the lead is something that is going to be a concern for them later in the year if they don't clean that up on their defense. I think the Rams just became victim to everyone else who's played Josh Allen this year. He is come out to play, and he is slinging it. And, there's not much film on him last year playing like he is. He obviously made a lot of improvements in the offseason, and Stephon Diggs showing up has been a huge boon to them. So this offense is scary, and I think the Rams were just caught off guard at the beginning of the game and then finally worked their way back into it. But I think the Bills' defense is definitely the area that needs to be cleaned up, or it's going to cost them late in this season.
Yeah, and that PI call, we could talk about that for hours upon end. That was just a horrific call to make at that point in the game. I feel bad for the Rams in that regard, but you know what? They really didn't deserve to win this game down 28-3, so the Bills come away with the victory here, and almost pulled an Atlanta Falcons, but psyched us at the end, unfortunately. So we'll have to wait and see how the Bills progress next week against your Raiders, which we'll talk about later on. Moving on here, we got a game that I really don't want to talk about, because I really didn't even want to talk about when we were picking the game. The Cleveland Browns and the Washington football team. The only thing that really mattered in this game was that Chase Young went down with an injury, and the Browns ended up winning 34-20.
Yeah, I think the biggest takeaway from this game, Cleveland won a game that they were supposed to win, and Washington, the future is very bright in Washington, which is crazy to say, but it's been very obvious watching their games this year that having Ron Rivera has completely changed how that team looks and how that team feels. And really, I think the questions are now starting to come about Dwayne Haskins, because he's really the reason that they lost that game. I know Nick Chubb looked great and the Browns did a lot of good stuff, but if he doesn't turn the ball over, I think it was 3 times, Washington might win that game, or it's definitely a lot closer, but they have an opportunity to win that game. But he can't be causing those turnovers and putting his defense in bad situations. So I think if Haskins can start progressing, or they decide to move on from Haskins because of these turnover issues, I think Washington's going to be good in the next couple of years.
Yeah, I echo what you say about Ron Rivera. That guy just brought so much stability and credibility to that organization that they have not had in probably a few decades. So I'm really high on Ron Rivera and what he can do for this young football team. But on the other side of the coin here, I saw a pathetic article posted by ESPN. The fact that it said that the Browns, for the first time in 6 years, are above 500, with a 2-1 record, beating the Washington football team and the Cincinnati Bengals. I cannot believe that article was allowed to be posted. That is just straight up embarrassing.
Yeah, the Browns are the Browns. And talk about 2 underachieving teams. They play Dallas this week, and that's going to be an interesting matchup for sure.
Great. Can't wait for that. Next we got the Tennessee Titans pulling off a 31-30 victory. Another walk-off field goal by Stephen Gostkowski late in that game. Very sloppy play by the Tennessee Titans in this game, and their secondary, with missing Adoree Jackson, it really looked like it was a big loss, because they got absolutely torched by the rookie receiver Justin Jefferson for Minnesota. He had a day, over 100 yards receiving, just a great game for the rookie. He hadn't played great in the first 2 games, so his coming out party here in week 3. But the Titans, again, a good team finds a way to win even when they haven't looked good. The Tennessee Titans did not look good that day, but they still managed to pull out the victory. And unfortunately for the Minnesota Vikings, a team who I had winning the NFC North, is now 0-3, and pretty devastating loss for them in that regard as well.
Yeah, I think Tennessee, they're 3-0, and I mean, it's been ugly. It hasn't been the best for them. They've had different issues week to week, but they keep pulling out the victories, and that's the only thing that matters at the end of the day is pulling off the victories, and they're going to continue to clean it up. I think they've shown improvement in each of the areas of the game, and Gostkowski obviously improved, got over that week 1 brutal start, and they look good. And then Minnesota, Justin Jefferson emerging is about the only good thing that's going on for them. There's something rotten in Minnesota, and it is. Whew, I mean, if it continues the way it's going, there might be serious questions and calls for someone's head to roll over the way that this team has been performing to start this year.
Yeah, it's really unacceptable with the amount of talent that they have on their roster. I could think of another team that I don't want to talk about anymore that has the same expectation and not winning games. Moving on here, we have your Las Vegas Raiders going to New England, and the Patriots coming out with the win here, 36-20. I know you picked the Raiders to cover in this game as 6-point underdogs. I picked the Patriots, and you called it slander. Well, Miklos, I'm sorry to tell you I was right.
Yeah, I mean, hey, I especially after our win over the Saints, I was feeling confident. I thought we could hang with them, but really, I'm going to mention this in the Monday night game too. But the way the Raiders team is, the defense isn't good enough to be leaned on, and the offense and defense have to support each other. And we saw in the Saints game when the Raiders' offense was rolling, the defense was taking advantage. They had confidence that the offense would score or get points, so they were playing confident, they were playing aggressive, and the turnovers is what cost us in the game against the Patriots. You can't turn the ball over against a Patriots team that is so good, and the way Cam Newton is playing. And our defense did the best they could. I mean, Max Crosby got a bit of a pass rush, got 2 sacks, so he's been the only bright spot in the pass rush that's been otherwise pretty disappointing. But you can't turn over the ball like that and expect to win the game. Even though we held our own, our team is right now the offense needs to lead the way, and whenever the offense is struggling, it's what costs us the game.
Yeah, so the Patriots coming away with a 16-point victory there, and the Raiders are still, I think, better than what people had expected them to be, and they're going to be welcoming the Bills this week out there in Las Vegas. So that's going to be a fun matchup to talk about. But for this sake, the Patriots pull out the win here by 16 points, and no undefeated season for the Raiders, I guess, Miklos. But, we'll have to wait and see for another year. Next, we'll move on here to the San Francisco 49ers. Pretty boring game against the New York Football Giants. Shout-outs to my buddy Josh and your brother Harry. New York Giants fans, just brutal the way that basically injuries have decimated both these teams, but the Niners have a lot more talent and a lot more depth to be able to overcome those injuries, and still stay somewhat competitive. Nick Mullins and the 49ers coming away with the victory here, 36-9. Nick Mullins somehow put up 36 points against the New York Giants. Don't know how that happened, but actually I do know how that happened because the Giants are a mess on the defensive side of the ball. But with that being said, decimated by injuries on the offensive side of the ball. I can't even, be mad at Daniel Jones because he just really has nothing around him at this point. I mean, Sterling Shepard's hurt. Saquon Barkley, the all-world running back, is hurt. They pick up Devontae Freeman off the street, who started last week. They never seem to be able to stay on the field healthy with their entire actual starting offense. So it's really hard to say what the Giants can do just because we haven't really been able to see any film for a long period of time of their starting offense.
Yeah, and I think the biggest takeaways from this game for the Giants, really positive stuff coming out of Daniel Jones running the ball, which, he was their leading rusher, I think, in the game and had some really big runs, but turnovers. He's got to clean it up. I know he's got nobody around him, but you can't be turning the ball over like that, especially with a roster that's as undermanned as the Giants are. And then San Francisco, they've started the season off 2-0 in New York and 0-1 in San Francisco, which is pretty ironic and interesting. But, hey, they're showing that depth matters, and how about Deion Jordan stepping up for them, who they elevated from the practice squad and got a couple, I think 1 or 2 sacks in the game, looked pretty good, and they've managed to make it happen. So San Francisco just got to keep scraping together these wins until everyone gets healthy, and then hopefully they can compete in the playoffs again like last year.
Yeah, they've been decimated with injuries, but luckily they played the two New York teams that play at MetLife the last couple of weeks, so they've been able to come away with a few victories, but that division's going to be very tough for them to stay competitive in with the Seahawks and the Cardinals and the Rams, how good those teams are playing, so we'll have to see how that's going to go moving forward. Moving on to the game, that was probably the worst game that I take that back. It was the worst overtime that I've ever seen in my entire life. The Cincinnati Bengals and the Philadelphia Eagles. Miklos, I don't know if you saw this. I watched the entire overtime. This was brutal. Just the amount of like not being able to move the ball for either team. Just the fumbles by the play calling, especially by the Eagles at the end of the game. Like they were trying to get into field goal range for a 62-yard attempt for Jake Elliott. They actually get to the 62-yarder mark, and they're about to kick the 62 or attempt the 62-yarder. They get called for a false start. It gets moved back to the 67, and they decide to punt with 10 seconds left. Like, I just don't understand, like, this Eagles team and Carson Wentz. Again, I've said that I think this Eagles team is a little bit overrated, and they show it this week again. I know the Bengals are improving, but they were last in the NFL for a reason last year. Joe Burrow obviously making a difference, but if you're the Philadelphia Eagles and you want to compete with the Dallas Cowboys in this division, you can't be tying the Cincinnati Bengals at home. Like these games are just inexcusable if you're the Philadelphia Eagles. I know they have a lot of injuries and a lot of things that haven't gone their way, but if you're a good team, you have to find a way to win these types of games, and a tie in this situation was just bowling shoe ugly.
Yeah, and I think as we have seen so far this season, other than the New York Jets, wins are tough to come by in the NFL. And if you're the Eagles, I think you're seriously concerned about the way that the season has started. I think, as it's appeared, Eagles fans are livid with the play and how their team has looked. They just look disorganized, and Carson Wentz has looked terrible. And I think the Bengals, amazingly, could be justifiably pissed that they didn't win this game. I really think that this is another game that they could have come away with a win, and I think that is very positive for the Bengals, that they have games that it's like, if we did this, if we did that, the not like hopeless games, but if things go a little bit away, they make a field goal here, they make a better throw there, I think they could be 2-1. Based on how this season started, as crazy as it sounds. So I think the Bengals know that they're moving in the right direction. Joe Burrow is definitely the guy, and I think for the Bengals, you're feeling upset about this tie, which is a very positive place to be. And if you're the Eagles, I have massive concerns for how this season's going.
Yeah, and I mean, like you said, the Bengals could be 2-1 right now, but again, they're going to be growing pains for this team. They're trying to build their way back up the standings, finishing last year. So for them coming away with a tie, I guess it's not the worst thing in the world, but they could easily have 2 wins right now. And like we said last week with the picks, I mean, how the Eagles were favored by 6 against anybody just blew my mind. I don't know how that was like the easiest cover of the week for me. Like the fact that the Eagles were somehow favored by 6, that was the easiest pick of the Bengals I've ever had.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, moving on here, Custom PPE is Canada's leading face mask provider. Best prices and quickest turnaround in Canada, built from right here in Niagara. Order today, customppe.ca, and use the code ARMCHAIR at checkout for 20% off your entire order. Again, Custom PPE. We've got Houston Texans, Pittsburgh Steelers. Didn't really catch much of this game, Miklos, but the Steelers' defense actually giving up 21 points, which is kind of concerning on their part. But again, they did play Deshaun Watson, so can't get too mad at them for that. But Steelers come away with a 7-point victory, 28-21 over the Texans.
Yeah, I think just based on what I saw, the little bit that I saw to this game, Deshaun Watson, it was jiving with his boys, Will Fuller especially, early in the game, and was doing Deshaun Watson things. But I mean, the Pittsburgh just kept doing what they do. They were running the ball well. Ben Roethlisberger was making the plays that he needed to. And, I mean, the better team won this game. I really think I feel so bad for Deshaun Watson because this team is just so undermanned. And, I mean, the reason they were in this game is because of how incredible Deshaun Watson is. And, yeah, it's changes definitely need to be made there. So, but all you can say is Pittsburgh did what they needed to do, got another win in the win column, and Houston keeps stumbling along.
Yeah, now first in the AFC North for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Moving on here to a game that should not take very long for us to talk about. The Indianapolis Colts win 36-7 over the New York Jets. Not much to say about that. The Jets are what they are, Miklos, and the fire Adam Gase train is well on the rails here to becoming a reality by the end of the season, maybe even before the first half of the season ends.
Yeah, positive for the Colts. Xavier Rhodes got 2 pick sixes and looked really good for them. They got the win as expected. And for the Jets, I mean, yeah, it's so bad. It's so bad there. It's unbelievable. I mean, I think they've ruined Sam Darnold. He looked awful in that game. He looked lost. Their whole team is just a mess. And I really think if they want a hope moving forward, I think they just need to just tear the whole thing down and just completely start from scratch, including firing coaching staff, front office, everything. Just blow the whole thing up. Because, I mean, as I mentioned to you in the pre-show, Dan Orlovsky came out and said that his 0-16 Lions would beat these 2020 New York Jets 16 games in a row. And honestly, I think he's right, because he could just throw to Calvin Johnson all day and that would be it. And this Jets team is horrendous.
Yeah, I mean, they look defeated after 3 weeks, so that's basically all you can say about that. Moving on to another team that you are familiar with, being in their division in the AFC West, and just a team every single year we talk about, the LA Chargers or the San Diego Chargers, whatever the heck their name is. Every year, they always find ways to lose games that they should not lose, and games that they're favored in. And this week was no different. Carolina Panthers traveling out west to play the Chargers. After the Chargers had a very good game against the Chiefs and almost beat the defending Super Bowl champions, go out and lose by 5 points to the Carolina Panthers. Miklos, just typical Chargers.
Yeah, I think Justin Herbert might have gotten a benefit of having an emergency start against the Chiefs, and they didn't have film on him, and he came to play with nothing to lose, and I think that definitely helped him, and their defense played good. But I've said it before, and I'll say it again, Carolina is not as bad as they appear. I mean, Teddy Bridgewater is dealing out there, even without Christian McCaffrey. Their offense was really solid, and Matt Rule has done a great job with this team. So Carolina came out, stepped up to the challenge, and beat this Chargers team. It's having a bit of a bumpy road right now. And
thanks to the Panthers winning, the Atlanta Falcons are in sole possession of last place in the NFC South. Moving on here, we have the Detroit Lions. It's pretty disappointing for us being big on the Arizona Cardinals bandwagon this year. Pretty disappointing that the Lions go down there and are able to pick up the victory against the Cardinals 26-23 in a game that might have saved Matt Patricia's job for another week. The Lions pulling off a big upset down there, in my opinion. We both picked the Cardinals in that game, and I think a lot of people did as well, with the way that they've been playing this year and the way the Lions have been playing in the opposite direction. Just 26-23 for the Lions over the Cardinals.
Yeah, I think this was a huge statement game and turning the ship around, especially the way the season started. They should have beat the Bears in Week 1. I think this definitely saved Matt Patricia's job, and I think this was a big turnaround point for the Detroit Lions. This was, amazingly, in Week 3, a must-win game for the Detroit Lions, and I think the Cardinals got brought down to earth a little bit there. I think people saw what they did in the first 2 weeks. The Lions obviously watched the film and came in prepared, and their offense made it happen out there, and the defense definitely stepped up for Detroit. So I think it was a huge win for Detroit. Definitely surprising, as you mentioned. We both picked Arizona, but I think that brought Arizona down to earth a little bit, and Detroit looking to fight back into this crowded and talented NFC.
Yeah, they got the Saints next week. Good luck with that. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers take care of business out in Denver, 28-10 victory. The decimated Denver Broncos, who had a lot of promise going in this year. I know you picked the Denver Broncos to make the playoffs this year. Unfortunately, they've just been decimated with injuries on both sides of the ball. Jeff Driscoll at quarterback, just a lot of yikes going on with that. But Tom Brady and the Buccaneers, they're despite playing an undermanned team, it looks like they're starting to get in rhythm after that horrendous first week they had against the Saints. It looks like they're finally starting to get all those new pieces together and clicking on all cylinders. They win 28-10 and take care of business out in Denver.
Yeah, I think Tampa Bay is getting their groove on for sure, and I think this week helped them get their groove on even more, because Denver, I mean, you do what you can, but they, much like the Giants, they have just been devastated with injuries, and they just don't have the talent or the pieces with all the guys who have gone down to really be as competitive as we expected them to be to come into the season. So Tampa Bay took care of business, and Denver is just continuing to fight.
And in a game that looked quite out of hand after the first half, the Seattle Seahawks took care of business against the Cowboys. The score is a lot closer than I think this game really should have been. For me, the talking point was what happened near the end of the game with the defensive lineman Tristan Hill for the Dallas Cowboys, and that questionable, to say the least, play on Chris Carson, where basically already down in the pile and kind of twists his ankle a little bit, injuring Chris Carson. We don't know how long he's going to be out for, but that's a big loss for the Seahawks, and a tough one to take, especially in a game that was basically theirs to win, and they end up losing a guy because of a frustration of a member of the losing team.
Yeah, I saw that, and there's just no room for that in sports. It's brutal to have, especially a talented running back like Chris Carson, go down. I think the most recent report I saw, they said possibly 1 to 2 weeks that he'd be out for with a sprained knee. But that kind of stuff is the dark underbelly of sports sometimes. These dirty plays, these questionable plays by frustrated players, and there's just no room for that. It makes everything worse, makes the sport worse, it makes people's opinion of the sport worse, and I think hopefully he gets fined for that or something, but yeah, you just can't have that. As for the game, though, Dallas, I mean, they're like the Browns, just unbelievable talent, and I mean, this is a game that I didn't expect them to win, and this is a very talented and on fire Seahawks team right now. So I think the result ended up being what I expected it to be, but Dallas has got to continue to have questions about how they're going to play moving forward and how they're going to win games, because they're lucky that the rest of their division is a hot, smoking, smoldering dumpster fire of a mess, because that's the only way that they're still in first place.
Yeah, with a 1-2 record, and could easily be 0-3 if it wasn't for the Atlanta Falcons, which I continue to say on this show. But if we're talking about the Seahawks real quick, I mean, this offense looks dangerous right now. I mean, this Tyler Lockett and Russell Wilson connection going on here, and adding DK Metcalf, Greg Olsen has added a lot as a veteran tight end, and obviously Chris Carson back there running back. For me, the Seahawks defense has been the talking point as far as them giving up a lot of points this year so far, but when their offense is firing on all cylinders like this, and Russell Wilson is definitely probably one of the top 2 guys in contention for the MVP this year, this Seahawks team is going to be very tough to beat in the NFC.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think a lot of injuries have happened to the Seahawks defense, and I think that's what's contributed to the amount of points scored. But also, Dallas has got a super talented offense. They were always going to score points, and I think the injuries in the back end, having Jamal Adams go down in the game too, is definitely something that contributed to that. But that offense, DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett along with Russell Wilson, that's a scary trio the way they're looking out there. And they're going to be a problem for defenses moving forward. Absolutely.
And going into the Sunday night game, a very good game here between the Green Bay Packers and New Orleans Saints, 2 teams that everybody expects to be, in the NFC championship conversation here. The Packers, your Green Bay Packers that you've been very high on going into the season, and Aaron Rodgers pulling it out again, minus Devontae Adams, their star wide receiver, pulling out a huge victory down there in New Orleans, 37-30. Wow.
Yeah, I keep saying it. Pissed off Aaron Rodgers, and I mean, also credit to the coaching staff down there. I mean, they've really made it happen. Alan Lazard is looking like a bona fide deep threat, and Aaron Rodgers is dealing out there. And Aaron Jones is a weapon at running back. Their offense has been incredible, and the defense too. The Packers are continuing to buzzsaw through the NFL week to week, and the Saints hung with them, but again, another week where I think they seriously missed Michael Thomas and what he helps their offense do. I think the bright side for them, though, is that Alvin Kamara is quite possibly the best running back in the NFL, and he was incredible in that game, but not enough. Against this Packers team.
I mean, for me, there's room for concern with Drew Brees. I mean, if he's not able to dunk passes to Alvin Kamara and Michael Thomas is in the lineup, I'm very concerned about Drew Brees being able to throw the ball 10 yards right now. It just does not seem like the Drew Brees that we're used to. Obviously, I know the age is a factor now, and, father time, and, it affects everybody, but just are you concerned with Drew Brees not being able to throw the ball down the field like we were accustomed to him seeing?
Honestly, I think defenses without Michael Thomas there are daring Drew Brees to beat them because they obviously don't think much of the rest of this Saints offense, and they know Alvin Kamara is only coming out of the backfield or running. And I think that Drew Brees is being forced to throw underneath because they're not going to allow any Emmanuel Sanders deep ball or Traquan Smith deep ball, and these guys are struggling to get open. And so that's what that's what's happening. But I mean, every year people are doubting Tom Brady, and Drew Brees is just as much of a GOAT as Tom Brady is when it comes to quarterbacking the ball. So I don't think that we need to be concerned just quite yet. I think that losing Michael Thomas has been more of an adjustment for their offense than I think they were expecting. But they'll be just fine.
And lastly, moving on to the Monday night game, the Kansas City Chiefs against the Baltimore Ravens, in a game that a lot of people expected as a preview for the AFC Championship game. Lamar Jackson, Patrick Mahomes, what a matchup! It looked to be. And like you mentioned before we went on air today, Lamar Jackson has 4 losses in the regular season as a starting quarterback. 3 of them have now been to the Kansas City Chiefs, and the Chiefs took care of business here. And the Ravens and Lamar Jackson seem to be snake bitten by the Mahomes and Andy Reid Chiefs here.
Yeah, and this Chiefs offense is just terrifying. Whenever they're clicking, it's unbelievable. But I think, much as I mentioned that the Raiders need to get their offense going to help their defense, and in my experience as well playing, when the offense is as dangerous as Kansas City's offense is, this is a reason why their defense plays so well. The defense goes out there every single series, and they know next series our offense gets the ball, they're going to get points. And it's going to take a miracle for them to get stopped. So we can play super aggressive. We can come after these offenses, and even if they score, it doesn't matter because we're going to score. The pressure is always on the opposing offense, and I think that's the beauty and the power of this high-powered Chiefs offense is they put such a stress on the opposing team to get points and to score that it definitely looked like it last night with the Ravens. The Ravens felt like they needed to score, and their offense looked out of sorts because they were stressed. It felt like they were working harder than they needed to. They didn't look relaxed, and they felt like if they didn't make a play happen, that the Chiefs were going to come out and score. And that was a self-fulfilling prophecy. They put too much on their defense. Their defense did come up with stops in the third quarter, but you can't be forcing yourself to make plays and expect to beat this team because they can go off at any moment. And that's the beauty of having such a high-powered offense.
And I was just looking at the Chiefs, and obviously we saw the Mecole Hardman touchdown late in the first half, just Mahomes throwing a bomb and him being wide open. Just the amount of track stars that this Chiefs team has on offense is just insane. The amount of speed that they have on this offense between Tyreek Hill, Hardman, even Clyde Edwards-Helaire, DeMarcus Robinson, Sammy Watkins, for his size, is considered an elite talent as far as speed-wise. And even Travis Kelce at the tight end position is considered fast as well for his position. Just the amount of speed that this team has and the way that Patrick Mahomes can sling the ball. I don't know how you can stop all these guys at once. It's just... I would be terrified as a defensive coordinator going up against this team just because of the pure amount of speed and track stars that this team has.
Yeah, and I think the Chargers showed a recipe for slowing down this offense is you have to play tight coverage and you have to be able to get to the quarterback. And I think that's what disrupted the Chiefs last week, the week before when they played the Chargers, is the Chargers pass rush was getting home, and everyone is super fast on the Chiefs offense, as you mentioned. And so if Patrick Mahomes has time, they're going to get open, and they're going to get open for huge plays, especially if you allow double moves to happen. So you have to limit them to throwing to the first read and playing tight defense to force those plays. And then even more so than that, what I thought the Ravens would do, you just got to ground and pound on offense and grind their defense, because I don't think their defense can hang if you do that. If you continue to grind them and hope that their offense gets out of a rhythm by sitting off the field for long. And it's kind of the recipe that the Raiders used to beat the Saints, and it disrupted their offense. And I thought that's what the Ravens would do, because if they get into a groove, the defense feeds off the offense, and the offense is, when they're cooking, I don't think there's a team in the league that can stop them.
Absolutely not. And we'll have to see how that goes forward with the Chiefs. But for now, they get the better of the Ravens once again, and we'll see if that's going to be an AFC Championship matchup that we can look forward to, and if the Ravens can kind of get it together and exile their demons against this Kansas City Chiefs team to make it even more exciting. But that being said, guys, that's it for the Week 3 recap. So we're going to take our last commercial break on the show today, and we're going to come back and discuss our Week 4 betting picks, and hopefully Miklos gets better than the Jason Garrett this week. So we'll be right back here on Straight to the Extra Point and right here on the Armchair GM Sports Network. J&L Flooring is a Niagara-based specialty flooring and design company. They take great pride in providing elite customer service and support. They are a specialty flooring and decor boutique shop with a beautiful showroom, great pricing, and a wide variety and truly unique selection of products. All their products are environmentally friendly and responsibly produced, so you can feel great about your flooring choices. Their goal as a local business is to build authentic relationships based on honesty and integrity that they foster with respect and authenticity, offering a unique and wide range of quality products presented by a knowledgeable and patient team. They connect with their customers to simplify the process to make their life easier and to make their homes beautiful. Visit them at 4424 Montrose Road, Niagara Falls, or find out more at jnlflooring.com. Open Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. through 5 p.m., and Saturday, 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. 905-358-3299, J&L Flooring. The Spicy Olive Bar and Grill is located on the top of Clifton Hill and just a 5-minute walk from the majestic Niagara Falls. It is conveniently nestled in the heart of the tourist district. A family-owned and operated business, the Spicy Olive opened its doors in May of 2003 and has since been established as an authentic and unique Italian restaurant and bar. Its rustic ambiance and time-worn finishing provide a warm and inviting dining experience. Offering an array of delicious dishes, they specialize in authentic Italian cuisine, homemade sauces, fresh ingredients, and consistently providing a strong foundation on which they build their menu. As night falls, the Spicy Olive shifts to a lively lounge where drinks and live music come together to make a perfect evening. For more than 15 years, they have provided not only for their dedicated locals, but their customers from all over the world with authentic Italian food and great live entertainment. Open daily 5 p.m. to 10 p.m. for dinner and till 2 a.m. for drinks. Check out their new menu and book reservations on their website at Spicy Olive Bar and Grill, it's with an E at the end, .com, or call 905-371-2323 for reservations as well. The Spicy Olive Bar and Grill.
You're listening to the Armchair GM Sports Network, the Niagara region's best local source for North American sports podcasting coverage. By sports fans, for sports fans.
All right, guys, welcome back to the final segment of our Straight to the Extra Point. Cappy and Miklos back with you here. Just went over the Week 3 recap. And with that being said, let's jump right into these Week 4 picks, Miklos. Really looking forward to this. And this segment today is brought to you by J&O Flooring, a Niagara-based specialty flooring and design company. Simplified process of making homes beautiful is their specialty. 905-358-3299 or jnlflooring.com to start today. We got a barn burner for the Thursday night game, and this is getting the crickets for this. Yeah, the New York Jets welcoming the depleted Denver Broncos. And Miklos, after the last couple of weeks where you've given me heck for calling the Thursday night games terrible, can I finally say that this is a horrendous Thursday night game?
Yeah, I don't know if it was possible to add more crickets to that because this game is just
I'll do it.
Fantastic. Yeah, this game is going to be just awful all around. I'm picking Denver. The spread's 2.5. I think Denver should manage to do that because as depleted as Denver is, this Jets team is just garbage. And they have the over/under set at 40. I think every year we get one of those like 6-3, 9-6, 9-3 type games. I think this might end up being one of them. I'm definitely taking the under, even though it's only at 40.
I don't think anybody else is going to disagree with this week, unless you're a really optimistic New York Jets fan or you're just a guy that's trying to make some quick money on taking a flyer here. But I think everybody's going to be on the Broncos and the under on this game. This game. I really don't know how much I'm going to watch of this game, to be completely honest with you. Really don't even think watching 5 minutes of it's going to be warranted. So, sorry to you Broncos fans out there. I know it was an optimistic season, but with all the injuries, at least you should be able to come away with the victory here against this Jets team, because it is brutal, as Miklos mentioned. So, that's about it. We're going to talk about the Thursday night game. Broncos and the under. Smash it all day long. We got the 1 o'clock game with the Indianapolis Colts and the Chicago Bears. The Colts favored by 3 points, and the over-under is 45.5.
Yeah, I'm actually surprised the Colts are favored here because I have not been impressed with what they have pulled off in the beginning of the year. They haven't looked all that spectacular on offense, and other than this last game, which, I mean, they played the Jets, so, like, get real. Their defense hasn't done much either, so I'm taking the Bears here. I think the Bears are probably even going to win this game, especially with Nick Foles taking over under the offense and the way they've looked through 3 games. But I'm going to take the under here. I don't think it's going to be that high scoring of a game. But I definitely do think the Bears are probably going to come away with a victory.
You're slandering your boy Phillip Rivers. I'm going with the Colts all day here. I think this is finally the week where the Bears get exposed for being a terrible 3-0 team. I don't care what anybody says. This team should be lucky they even have 1 win, let alone 3. So, sorry to you Bears fans out there, and shout-outs to your fiance Kayla, who's a Bears fan as well. But, yeah, for me, the Bears just... they're not doing it for me. And I think the Colts are going to start getting in their groove here. They lost to Jacksonville in Week 1. That was terrible, but they come up with a victory against the Vikings a few weeks ago, and yeah, they beat the Jets last week. So they're riding high right now. So I'm with the Colts at -3, and I'm going with the over on the 45.5. You're on the Bears at +3 and the under. So maybe this game decides who wins the picks this week. So we'll have to wait and see with that. But I'm on the Colts and your boy Phillip Rivers. With that being said, let's move on to a game that, wow. Yeah, good thing the Detroit Lions won last week against the Cardinals, because this week they're welcoming the Saints into town, and with the Saints coming off of 2 losses in a row here, they're going to be out for vengeance, especially if Michael Thomas is back healthy, and I'm just going to go ahead and say it. I mean, as much as I hate the Saints, I'm going with the Saints all day at -4 here.
Yeah, quickly, you're just going to pick, like, after talking up Nick Foles, all that, and then just like that, you're going to throw him under the bus and not take him this week? Unbelievable.
Well, I mean, he was good, but I don't know. Just this Colts team. I mean, Phillip Rivers. How can you bet against Phillip Rivers after all these years playing him against the Chargers twice a year, Miklos? You should know what Phillip Rivers is about.
Yeah, quite capable of picking against him. Anyways, about the Saints and Lions. Yeah, I think this is the week I think this is a get right week for the Saints, and I also think it's a must-win week for the Saints. Based on how they've looked the last couple of games, I think losing the game to the Raiders was a big shock to them, and then the Packers, I think, was always going to be a tough game, and so to drop both those games in a row, I think this is a game that they have to win, and I think Detroit's going to give them a fight, but I do think the Saints are going to come away. I'm taking the Saints here, but I am going to take the over because that Lions offense, especially with Galladay back, is looking real good.
I'm on the over as well, and we're both on the Saints at -4. Just I don't really see Detroit having a chance in this game, with the Saints having to come away with the win here and getting back on track. So with that being said, let's move on to the next game here. The Arizona Cardinals traveling to Carolina. The Cardinals are favored by 3.5 on the road, and the over-under is 52.5.
Yeah, and I've liked what I've seen out of Carolina. I really have. I do think Arizona's probably going to come away with the win, but the 3.5 spread, I think they'll probably just win by a field goal. I'm going to take Carolina to cover here, and especially based on how they looked last week against the Lions, I'm going to take the under as well. Okay,
so you're on the under with the Panthers covering the 3.5. Well, I'm going to continue on with our Arizona Cardinals love affair here, and I'm going with the Cardinals at -3.5. I think they bounced back after a very bad loss to the Lions last week, and I'm going with the over in this game. I really like what I see from the Cardinals offense, and the Panthers can put up points too, and their defense really hasn't been able to stop anybody not named the Los Angeles Chargers. So with that being said, I'm with the Cardinals and the over on this game. Miklos is with the under, and the Panthers covering the 3.5. Onto a game. This game looks terrible. If it wasn't for the Broncos and Jets, this might be the worst game of the week here, in my opinion. The battle of the cats here. The Jags traveling to Cincinnati to play the Bengals. Wow. Bengals favored by 3 points. Over-under is 48.
Yeah, who day, baby. I'm high on this Bengals team, and Joe Burrow. I do think the Bengals are going to come away with the win here, get their first win of the season. And as much as I've been high on Jacksonville, I think Cincinnati's been looking really good. I think they'll be able to pull off this win. So I'm taking Cincinnati, and I'm going to take the under, though, because I don't think it's going to be crazy high scoring.
Yeah, I agree with you. Under all day on this, and I'm picking the Bengals as well to get their first win. They've come very close against the Chargers and the Eagles, so I think they finally get it done this week against this Jags team. Just do not believe in them whatsoever. So Bengals -3 and both on the under as well, 48 points. Moving on here, Cleveland, a game that we discussed earlier. Cleveland traveling to Dallas to play the Cowboys, too. Very talented teams on paper, but both underachieving, to say the least. Cowboys favored by 5. 56 points is the over-under.
Yeah, I think Dallas does take care of business here. I think the Browns underachieve and have been underachieving far longer than the Cowboys, so they're just better at it, you know? They got that underachieving lockdown. So I do think Dallas is going to come away with the win here, despite the talent on the Browns, but because of that, I do think it's going to be pretty high scoring. I'm going to take Dallas here in the over.
Yeah, I mean, for the first time in 6 years, the Browns are over 500, and it's going to last a total of 1 week, and they're going to move to 2-2 here when the Cowboys take care of business, which they should, considering how brutal their division is. They just need to start winning some games, and I'm going with the Cowboys in the over as well. Should be a high-scoring affair in that one. That being said, Niagara Employment Help Center is helping job seekers find work with their free services and counseling professionals, located at 6100 Throwstone Road, Niagara Falls, across from the Miklos Plaza. Book your appointment today at 905-358-0021 or ehc.on.ca. We've got the Minnesota Vikings traveling to Houston. Which one of these teams is going to turn it around here? Two very underachieving teams here. Texans somehow favored by 4 points in this game, and the over-under is 54.
Yeah, and this is the game, as we mentioned at the beginning of the show, that potentially may not happen this week. But despite that, I think Houston finally gets it here. Minnesota has looked terrible, even though they scored a lot of points against Tennessee last week. I think Deshaun Watson finally pulls one out for his Houston Texans here, and Minnesota continues their slide. I think Deshaun Watson's going to take advantage of this defense, and especially that depleted secondary in Minnesota. And but I mean, as we saw, Minnesota is capable of scoring points here. I'm going to take Houston in the over.
I'm going with the over as well because both these defenses have not proved to me that they can stop anybody. But I'm going with the Vikings again. You know, maybe they don't win this game, but I don't think you can pick the Texans to be, covering against anybody right now, just like the Eagles. So I think 4 is a little bit rich for the Texans to cover. So I'm with the Vikings at +4, and I think the Vikings flat out win this game. They need to get back on track at some point. You're on the Texans getting back on track. I'm on the Vikings. We're both on the over, and we'll have to see how that one goes. Next, we got the Seattle Seahawks traveling to Miami, play the Dolphins. Seahawks favored by 6.5. I'm going to go ahead and just start it off here, Miklos. Seahawks are going to win by 14 at least in this game.
Oh, absolutely. The way Russell Wilson has been looking at the rest of that team, definitely Seattle here, and definitely slamming the over. Fitzpatrick has shown that he can score points when he needs to, especially in garbage time, and I mean, Seattle's going to score a ton. So I'm going to take Seattle in the over.
Yeah, I agree with that too. I mean, the Seahawks defense hasn't been great, and like you mentioned, they're decimated with some injuries right now. So Fitzmagic can sling the ball and do his part to get this game in the over category. With that being said, the Buccaneers welcoming the Chargers, favored by 7.5. What are you thinking here?
Tampa Bay in the over. Tampa Bay is really starting to cook now, and the Chargers, I think they're still sorting out their team, getting better, seeing what works with Herbert. So I do think they'll get some points in here, but Tampa Bay's defense has been looking really good, and their offense is starting to gel now. So definitely Tampa Bay and the over. Over
on the 44.5. Do you think 7.5 is a little bit rich for the Buccaneers to cover, though?
Not the way their offense looked last week and the way the Chargers looked last week, especially with how good also Tampa Bay's defense has looked. I don't think that's too rich. I think that's right where it should be.
Yeah, Mike Evans, 2 catches last week for 2 yards and 2 touchdowns. What a stat line. So we'll have to wait and see if he can continue doing that for my fantasy teams. And the Buccaneers, as much as I don't like them, they've been looking pretty good. So I'm going to pick them as well to cover and the over on the 44.5. So I'm with you all day on that. And the game that we're going to pick now, but it might not happen for a few weeks. Who knows if it's even going to happen at all. We have the Pittsburgh Steelers traveling to Tennessee to play the Titans. Again, like we mentioned at the opening of the show, it might not happen with all the positive cases of COVID for the Tennessee Titans. And who knows the status of this game, what's going to go on. Again, we're recording this on Tuesday, so I'm sure there's going to be a lot of developments later in the week to see if this game's going to happen or not. But like you mentioned, the Steelers are preparing as if this game is happening. The Steelers favored by 2.5 in this game, and I was really looking forward to this game. I think this was going to be one of the better games of the week here, the Steelers and the Titans. A good defensive battle, I would believe. And Titans, again, 2.5 point underdogs at home, and the over-under is 47.
Yeah, and the way that Pittsburgh looked last week, and they did close out the game that they need to. Defense played well, offense played well, but both these teams have shown that they can give up quite a few points. I do think Pittsburgh is going to finally take advantage of some of the sloppy plays and mistakes that Tennessee has made. So I am going to take Pittsburgh here, but I'm going to take the over because both teams show that they can score and they can also get scored on whenever the time happens.
Yeah, if Adoree Jackson's out again this week, it's going to be pretty hard for the Titans for the Titans to be able to stop people in the secondary because Justin Jefferson just torched them last week. But I'm with you on the Steelers. I think they were able to take care of the Titans. Titans have kind of got a little bit lucky so far this year, haven't played their best. So I'm taking the Steelers, although the Titans have had a few wins. And I'm going to go with the under here. I think both defenses finally get it together. And this might be a low-scoring, good defensive battle if the game happens. So I'm on the under with the Steelers. You're on the over with the Steelers at 47 points. Moving on here to the largest spread of the week, we got the Baltimore Ravens traveling to Washington, favored by 13.5, and the over-under is 51.
I think this is a get-right week for the Ravens, and I think their defense could even score touchdowns in this game based on how Haskins was turning the ball over last week against the Browns. So I definitely think, even though 13.5, I think the Ravens cover this easily. I think they're going to run the ball, and Lamar Jackson's going to have a great bounce-back game. Despite how good Washington's front seven is, and that D-line did look scary against Baker, if Chase Young isn't back, Lamar Jackson is a problem. As you can see, he moves in the pocket, and the way you stop a great pass rush is just run the ball down their throats. But, hey, maybe we'll see some kind of crazy game. The Baltimore defense will score more points than the offense. But I'm going to take Baltimore here, and I'm going to take the over.
Yeah, I'm with you on it all day. I mean, again, it's a little bit rich, the 13.5, but I do think they get it together, especially coming off the loss against the Chiefs this week. They're going to want revenge here, and with Chase Young out, that could be huge for Washington. So I'm going with the Ravens to cover, and I'm with you on the over as well. I think it's going to be a high-scoring matchup. Moving on here to the New York Giants, traveling to L.A. to play the Rams in the second highest spread of the week. 12.5 favored for the Rams. Do you think they cover?
I do. The Giants just looked really bad last week. I mean, they got nobody on offense, and I think Aaron Donald is just going to wreck Daniel Jones' day. And the Rams' offense has been really good this year. Even though they didn't pull off the win against Buffalo, I mean, Sean McVay has done a good job working his magic with them over there. So I do think they're going to cover, and I am going to take the over here. I do think that the Rams are going to score quite a bit, and the Giants may be able to just scrape in some points here and there.
I think if the Rams score 43, maybe the Jets can put up a couple of field goals, because I don't see any chance that this New York Giants team is going to stop this Rams offense, especially the way that they played coming back against that great Buffalo defense last week. So I'm with you all day on the Rams. Just too many injuries on the Giants, and they couldn't even stop Nick Mullins. So they're definitely not going to be able to stop Jared Goff and Sean McVay in this Rams offense. So I'm with you all day on this minus 12.5 for the Rams to cover, and I'm on the over as well. Moving on here to a very good game, and a game that we've seen a lot over the years in the playoffs. Just a little new look New England Patriots team, not with Tom Brady anymore. We have the Patriots traveling to Kansas City to play the Chiefs. The Chiefs are favored by 7 points, coming off the big win against the Ravens, and the over/under is 54. Do you see any way that the Patriots and Cam Newton keep this game close?
I think it's going to be interesting how they approach this game. Cam Newton has looked awesome for the Patriots, and I really think it's going to be interesting how Bill Belichick approaches this game, because we've seen before where he looks like he shouldn't be in a game, or he shouldn't be in a position to do as well as he does. And let's not forget, 2 years ago, they held that insane Patriots offense, or insane Kansas City offense, to 0 points in the first half of that game in their AFC Championship game, which was incredible. So I do think Bill Belichick definitely has some magic up his sleeve. But that being said, they are missing 6 of their top defenders who have opted out for COVID reasons, and I think that's definitely going to be an issue for them. It has been an issue for them for the points allowed and how good this Kansas City offense looked. I'm picking Kansas City, and I am going to take the over as well.
Okay, so I'm with you on that. Again, the Patriots have looked good, but they haven't played the greatest competition so far this year. No offense to your Raiders and the Dolphins and teams like that, but they just, for me, they haven't played the greatest teams, and we saw what happened. I mean, they almost ended up beating the Seahawks, which I was very surprised about. But for me, I think the Chiefs are going to roll here. I'm on them definitely at 7 points, and I'm going to go with the under here. I think we always know what Bill Belichick can do, locking a team down. I know the Patriots' defense isn't quite what it was last year with all the key losses that they had, but for me, I think it's going to be a little bit more of a low-scoring game than people might have had initially thought with these two teams playing each other. But I'm going with the Chiefs here, like you, and I'm on the under on the 54. You're on the over, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And before we move on here to our last shout-out, Spicy Olive Bar and Grill. Family owned and operated since 2003, serving authentic and unique Italian-style food, along with drinks and live music to make a great dining experience. This month's promo code is Armchair Penne, 10% off your entire order when you call, or let your server know when you dine in. 905-371-2323 or spicyolivebarandgrill.com to book your reservation today. We got the Buffalo Bills traveling to Vegas to play your Las Vegas Raiders. Bills favored by 3 points on the road, and the over-under is 52.5. Do you think the Raiders get it back on track here after the loss to the Patriots out east?
I really hope that they do, but I do think the way Josh Allen has been playing and the way our defense has been looking, I was really disappointed with how Jonathan Abram played against the Patriots. I really expected a lot more of him. He missed some tackles, didn't look as aggressive as he did against the Saints, and I think our secondary is going to be severely tested against this Bills team, and the way we haven't really gotten a pass rush going and how mobile Josh Allen is and how he's been hitting those deep balls, there's going to be a problem if their offense gets rolling. So I do think that I'm gonna pick against my Raiders here. Unfortunately, I think Buffalo is going to come away with the win here, and at being 3 points, I think that's a low over-under, and they might even win by a touchdown. But I am going to take the over because as we've seen, the Bills are definitely capable of giving up a lot of points. Their defense has been looking shaky. But I am going to take the Bills and then the over. Yeah,
I think both these teams can put up offense, and again, like you mentioned in a previous game, both of them can give up a lot of points as well. So, unfortunately for you, Miklos, I'm on the Bills as well. Just they're a well-oiled machine right now, and you know what? I think the Raiders might keep it close, but 3 points is just if the spread might have been closer to 10, I might have picked the Raiders to cover, but 3 points, just you got to take the Bills here. That's way too low, in my opinion, for you to even have a chance to pick the Raiders. So if it would, like I said, if it was maybe one of these other spreads at a 13 or a 12, I might have went with the Raiders to cover, but can't do it with the 3 points. Bills probably by at least 7 in this game. So unfortunately, I'm with you with the Bills and the over in this game. So Bills Mafia, we'll have to see if they're riding high again this week and partying up in Las Vegas. Next, we got the Sunday night game, and this game just went to the dumpster with all the injuries that have plagued both of these teams. This is going to be a pretty brutal Sunday night game, and it's unfortunate that it's a week before flexing happens. This game definitely would have been flexed out with what's happened to both teams. The San Francisco 49ers and Nick Mullins welcoming the Philadelphia Eagles, favored by 7 points, and the over-under is 45.5.
Yeah, and I think if you're an Eagles fan, this is a must-win game. The way that San Francisco has been depleted, you need to win this game. If you go down, it's going to be a lot of people on the hot seat, I think, in Philadelphia. That being said, Philadelphia has looked terrible. And I think San Francisco, even though it's at 7, which I think is a little bit rich, I'm going to roll with San Francisco here, and I think they win by at least 7. I think they have the depth and I think Philadelphia has looked that bad that San Francisco can pull this off. I do think it's going to be an under, though, because of how depleted San Francisco is and how bad Philadelphia has looked.
I'm with you all day. 49ers at -7, even with Nick Mullins at quarterback. Can't trust the Eagles whatsoever right now, and I'm on the under as well. Don't think it's going to be a very high-scoring matchup with the way Carson Wentz has looked as well. So both on the 49ers at -7 and under in the 45.5. And, oh man, best for last, I guess. Why not? Our only primetime game of the year, the Atlanta Falcons travel to Green Bay to play the Green Bay Packers. Packers favored by 7.5. I'm just going to go ahead and say Packers by at least 14, and that's all I'm going to say.
Yeah, unfortunately, buddy, your defense just gives me no confidence, and especially how good the Packers have looked. I'm taking Green Bay here, but the positive, your Falcons offense has been looking really good, so I'm going to take the over here. I think this is going to be a very high-scoring game, but I think the Packers are going to take this win pretty handily.
Yeah, this is the highest over-under of the week for points. 58 points. I think it's definitely going to go over that. Both teams are going to put up points, like you mentioned, but the Falcons just... Again, this was a game looking at the head of the schedule, probably circle it down as a loss. You wouldn't be too upset about it if you would have been able to pull out the 2 victories that you should have had the first 2 weeks. So really after this week, you would have been 2-2, sitting in a pretty good spot, but now you're going to be 0-4 instead. So again, they got a pretty easy schedule after this week, so we'll see if they can pull it back together. If not, Dan Quinn, you're going to be hitting the streets real quickly, kids. So Packers here at -7.5, and I'm with you on the over on the 58 points. So that's that for the Week 4 picks, Miklos. What's your game of the week here? What game are you looking most forward to, obviously, besides your Raiders and Bills?
This Pittsburgh-Tennessee game. It's a real bummer that it potentially is going to get canceled. I think that was going to be a really exciting game. I think New England-Kansas City, always a great matchup. I'm really looking forward to that, to see just what Bill Belichick can pull off against this super high-powered offense in Kansas City. And, of course, the Monday night game, I do think it's going to be really exciting. I don't think it's going to be very positive for you, but I do think it's going to be a pretty awesome game to watch. A lot of points scored, a lot of big plays.
Yeah, I agree with you with the Steelers and Titans game. It's unfortunate. I think that was going to be a really good game as well. But obviously, game of the week coming up, starting off hot here. Broncos and Jets, Miklos. Obviously, game of the week right there.
Maybe for some hardcore Broncos fans.
Yeah, for whatever ones are left out there after they've been decimated with injuries. But with that being said, Miklos, anything you want to say before we wrap up today and wrap up our Week 3 recap and our Week 4 picks here? Hopefully you're getting back on track here, and again, I'll mention it one more time. Hopefully going to be better than the Jason Garrett 8-8 next week.
Yeah, absolutely. Hopefully my picks can clean it up, but looking for another exciting week of football, and hopefully things don't get derailed too badly.
Yeah, exactly. That Titans and Steelers situation hopefully doesn't throw the whole schedule and the whole league for a loop, but hopefully we'll have a more positive update on that for next week's show. But with that being said, guys, that's going to wrap it up for this episode of Straight to the Extra Point, right here on the Armchair GM Sports Network, your source of North American sports coverage by sports fans, for sports fans, delivered to you right here in the Niagara region. As always, I'm one of your hosts of the Straight to the Extra Point, Cappy. You can follow me on Twitter at Caputs13 with a Canadian Z. As well, you can follow my co-host at Miklos_McMaster on Twitter as well. Miklos, thanks so much for coming on and talking football. Always much appreciated, man, and safe travels with your travel back to the States for your next medical journey, your next step in your medical journey. So we'll wish you well and your trip to West Virginia.
Thank you, sir, and looking forward to talking, hopefully, if my schedule allows, talking to you next week as well.
Absolutely. So we're lucky to have him, and wish him well in his medical profession and what he's going to be doing down there. Awesome stuff. And a big thank you to all of our great sponsors who will put us on, support the network, keep the show on the air. Make sure you're checking them out and telling them that the Armchair GM sent you. Make sure you're using those promo codes as well. Awesome stuff there. And finally, to you viewers out there for tuning in and listening along with us for this episode. And once again, this has been Straight to the Extra Point on the Armchair GM Sports Network by sports fans, for sports fans. Enjoy Week 4. It's all about the Shield, baby.